Well, welcome, folks. And Wendy Griffith is with us today. We're going to have a great show. Wendy, did you ever have a secret that you wanted to tell people and you couldn't?
Oh, yes. It is the worst thing,
It's
isn't
horrible.
it? You know, when you have to hold it. Because, you know, like
Jay
you said, we're communicators.
told me a couple weeks ago that the pick was going to be Gorsuch.
Jay Sekulow.
Yeah, and I'm on this program arguing with our reporter about some cab driver going to be Supreme Court, and I knew he wasn't, and I couldn't say, but I know better because
It had to be excruciating.
Well, I wasn't gonna steal Donald Trump's thunder.
Yeah.
No way in the world. But he announced his Supreme Court pick last night, and he's being called a strong constitutional conservative. He's a federal judge on the 10th Circuit, Neil Gorsuch, and his supporters say he's right in the mold of the man he would be replacing Antonin Scalia.
Right. Now the battle to confirm Gorsuch will begin, with some Democrats already compromising to oppose his nomination. Paul Strand brings us the story from Washington.
President Trump knew this choice really mattered to those who elected him. In fact, of voters who said the Supreme Court was their #1 issue, 56% of them voted for him. Trump promised a constitutionalist in the mold of Antonin Scalia, and with federal appeals court Judge Neil Gorsuch, he's delivered.
I promise to select someone who respects our laws and is representative of our Constitution and who loves our Constitution.
The Supreme Court's work is vital not just to a region of the country, but to the whole. Vital to the protection of the people's liberties under law and to the continuity of our Constitution, the greatest charter of human liberty the world has ever known.
Veteran court watcher John Malcolm gave us his grade on the pick.
He will be a superlative Supreme Court justice.
Malcolm can understand from Gorsuch's past rulings and writings why Trump would choose him.
He has a sparkling writing style, much like Antonin Scalia, but more important than his sparkling writing style, he's a very, very deep thinker who's written some incredibly scholarly opinions on a whole host of issues.
Naming the nominee was the easy part, but Senate Democrats have promised a bruising battle over confirmation. You're likely to hear over and over again how Trump's pick is extreme and not mainstream. Earlier pledges to fight any Trump nominee led to this White House response to a question from CBN News' David Brody.
And before they've even heard who this individual is, you've got some of them saying absolutely no. I mean, that just shows you that it's all about politics. It's not about qualification.
When he was nominated to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, he was confirmed by the Senate unanimously. I only hope that both Democrats and Republicans can come together for once for the good of the country.
Malcolm knows the Democrats are going to attack, but he's just not sure how.
I mean, you can never really replace a legal lion like Antonin Scalia, but a fitting successor to Antonin Scalia. But you know, Neil Gorsuch surely fits that mold, and I expect that at the end of the day, he will get confirmed despite some heated opposition from some pretty mad Democrats.
But Gorsuch says he's ready for whatever his critics bring.
I consider the United States Senate the greatest deliberative body in the world, and I respect the important role the Constitution affords it in the confirmation of our judges.
Senate Democrats have already delayed moving on some of Trump's cabinet choices, including Attorney General Jeff Sessions. But Gorsuch could face the hardest confirmation battle of them all. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Well, he's an incredible pick. He's been vetted by the Federalist Society, vetted by the Heritage Foundation, vetted by very distinguished legal scholars. Jay Sekulow is with us, and Jay had the word a couple of weeks ago, told me, and I had to sit here and act like I didn't know. And Jay, that was a hard task ahead of me.
Yeah, well, you never could be 100% sure. So I told you that was the sense we were getting and what was circulating. But until it was announced, you didn't know. But yeah, it's, look, a great pick. And by the way, Pat, we've appeared before Judge Gorsuch in a Ten Commandments case that ultimately went to the Supreme Court of the United States. We won 9-0. The dissent that he signed in our favor at the 10th Circuit served as the basis of that case. So this is someone we've had experience with on a number of occasions, and he's got a great judicial record. And frankly, I don't think they're going to be able to mount the filibuster. They may try, but it's going to be for naught. They're not going to be able to do it.
Well, he has such a distinguished record now. Let's see, he clerked for Kennedy. He also clerked, I understand, for Brian White. So he's got tremendous Supreme Court experience. He was confirmed unanimously for the 10th Circuit. How can they come after him?
Well, you know, the groups on the left, ACLU, People for the American Way, others, Ned Aaron's group, they're gonna say he's an extremist, and that means code word. They're concerned that he's pro-life. He wrote a book on euthanasia. He talks about the value and dignity of human life. He ruled in favor of the state in a case involving Planned Parenthood defunding. So, look, that's how they're going to mount the challenge. But the fact of the matter is, you're already seeing Democrats starting to peel off. If they filibuster, Neil Gorsuch, all the Republicans have to do is walk through the door that Harry Reid already kicked open with the nuclear option. So they may try to do it, Pat. Look, it's a free country. They could try whatever they want to do. Let me tell you what we're going to be saying. In about 10 weeks, we're going to be calling Judge Gorsuch Justice Gorsuch.
I believe it. Well, look, Democrats are talking about a stolen seat. The Republicans didn't vote on Merrick Garland, but they had people from Joe Biden on saying you shouldn't vote during an election year for Supreme Court judge.
Was the Biden rule. He actually said at the floor of the United States Senate, when you're in an election year, you don't put the nominee through. And by the way, all the Democrats lined up with him on that, so that was no great shock. But look, they could cry over that. They could say whatever they want to say. The answer to that is elections have consequences. They lost the Senate. Here's the risk for the Democrats. You've got 10 Senate seats that are up, and you know this better than I do, certainly. 10 Senate seats up in the next cycle for the election for Democrats that are in vulnerable states where Donald Trump won. Are they going to block Neil Gorsuch, who received a 95, a voice actually vote? It was confirmed with no objection to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, has a sterling record, has written some of the most articulate opinions of any Court of Appeals judge. Are they going to stonewall him and try a filibuster and run the risk of the Republicans breaking that filibuster, which would happen? Mitch McConnell was very clear. Senator McConnell said he is going to be confirmed, and I take him at his word on that.
Well, you know, the thing about Schumer, you talk about extreme. He voted against Elaine Chao for confirmation, and she's Mitch McConnell's wife.
Yeah, and that was, again, that's the pettiness of the political moment we're in. But here's the reality. We have a Supreme Court vacancy that's about to be filled by Judge Gorsuch, who will be Justice Gorsuch. There is a very good chance that by this summer, there's going to be another vacancy. So this process, Pat, I think we're going to be looking at 2 to 4 vacancies in the next 2 to 4 years, maybe even less than that. And the fact of the matter is, this is the Supreme Court for the rest of our lives. And you know, I've been trying to avoid this court, getting a case up to the court for the last 8 years because of the way the court's been divided. This, by the way, just restores the balance. It doesn't tip the court. It's a slight 5-4 majority. The next justice could well tip that balance if it was Justice Breyer, Justice Ginsburg, or even maybe Justice Kennedy, whoever might go, could tip the balance, although Justice Kennedy generally rules in our favor. So we're coming to that point where the court ideologically, philosophically is going to make a shift. We're not there yet, but this is a great start with a young, bright, intelligent, perfect nomination to fill the seat of the late, great Justice Antonin Scalia, someone that I had the privilege of appearing before for 3 decades.
All right. Well, were you in the Hobby Lobby case, or you in any of these other cases before?
We were.
Judge?
We had 8 cases, and the Hobby Lobby case was the main case with 7 other Supreme Court cases attached to it. We had, I think, 5 of those. So the Hobby Lobby case, the Summum case, which was the 10 Commandment case, a number of other cases we've been before Judge Gorsuch. His rulings are great, his concurrences are great, and his dissents are great. And that becomes very important when you're trying to get something overturned.
Well, see, you're very optimistic, but do you think Kennedy's going to be the next one? Because he's kind of has been a swing, but he's been a conservative swing vote. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Justice Kennedy. I mean, look, they always all don't get him right. Although I will say Justice Scalia was with us on every single opinion in every case we brought. But having said that, look, I don't know if it'll be Justice Kennedy, but I suspect that there could well be a vacancy, and I think you're going to see other nominees come forward in the mold of what you just saw with Gorsuch.
Jay, one last question that, of course, worries me. We used to think that the job of judges was to interpret the written Constitution and apply it as it was intended by the people who wrote it.
Right.
Now we have a group of people who think it's a living document that can be malleable in relation to the mood of the sociological thinkers of the day. That's the Democrat position. The other is the strict constructionist position. Who's going to win?
Well, I think right now the tip is slightly in favor of the originalist textualists, which would be justices like Sam Alito, justices like Clarence Thomas, justices when Judge Gorsuch is confirmed. So I think it's tipping that way. And this is the ideological split on the court. Is the document, as Justice Breyer says, a living and breathing document, or is it, in fact, a document written by the founders and should be interpreted in that light? I'm a textualist. I think if you want to change the Constitution, you can. It's called a constitutional amendment. It has been changed. But you have to do it through the amendment process. That's the people, not the court.
Jay, thank you so much. Stay with it, buddy. God bless you.
Yep. Right. Thanks, Pat.
Wendy, it's an amazing fight that's been going on. I found it when I went to Yale Law School, you know. The first case we studied in constitutional law was called Marbury versus Madison. We didn't read the Constitution. As far as I can tell, in that entire time of studying the constitutional law, we never once sat down and read the Constitution.
Wow.
We started with a case that said that the Supreme Court has the power to overturn cases at the Supreme Court. That was Marbury versus Madison, you know, in a capsule. And it's been amazing how people have changed the Constitution. But you got a guy like Scalia, and people applaud him because he was a strict construction. He said, this is what the law said. Let's find out what the framers intended and read the language that is written. That's nice. The others say, well, you know, we can't do that as a living document. So, but that was Hillary Clinton. If she had gotten in, she would definitely have put in judges.
Oh, man.
But it's an amazing thing.
It is the most important decision a president can make.
Absolutely. But the fact is, we've had cases that have driven us all nuts. The so-called Lemon case, which was, you know, Scalia said he was like a ghoul that needed to come out and drive a stake through his heart. But, you know, all these religious liberty cases have been absolutely outrageous, and they have restricted freedom of religion. So you get it's a chance for some of these things to be overturned. And what the guys, the pro-abort folks are concerned about, one more judge. There's a real possibility of overturning Roe versus Wade, which was based on extraordinarily poor legal opinion, and it was.
Well, that would be something to see that.
It was called Blackmun's abortion. I mean, they made up case law that didn't exist. It was just unbelievable.